Crush your opponent with a smile. It's Fantasy Sports Island.
Reaper, first of all, can you tell us why you do this?
I do it for the kids, Johnny. For the kids.
It's real.
We'll see. We'll see if McCaffrey can buck the trend. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. I pray for his soul.
All right.
I hope. Good luck to his soul, but
And it shall be a Bijan, and it shall be a good man.
all right. Sorry.
Bruh.
Hey,
That was
Johnny, Ballgame, and the Reaper. Welcome to the show.
welcome to the show. What's up, everybody? How you doing, Reap?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, John?
The reason Chuck asks me that in a way that obviously hints at the fact that I maybe wouldn't be doing okay is because my dumbass slipped on some stairs last week and managed to crack a rib. So, if you think I'm getting old, that's because I am about, I don't know, what's that, 8 inches away from breaking a hip. So, yeah. Luckily, I was carrying a box down the stairs in socks, hit the step wrong, feet went out from under me, but I didn't drop what I was carrying.
The useless stuff in the box.
The absolutely useless stuff. We were donating. It was clothing that we were donating that I was getting rid of that I didn't want to drop and injure and therefore took a shot to my ribs.
So Johnny was doubtful last week and he did not play. But Johnny is questionable coming into tonight's show, and here he is. He's doing
Play through.
He's gonna battle through for you guys.
Play through. I'm not missing this game.
Welcome to Ballgame in the Reaper, where we help you win your fantasy league.
That's all we
How's
do.
that sound? That's all we do. That's why we're here.
That's all we do.
We have 25 years each of fantasy football experience. Oh, and by the way, we invented PPR.
Invented PPR.
Truth. And you're welcome for that.
Those of you who don't have PPR, you're idiots, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But those of you who do have PPR, literally, I know you've probably got posters of like Michael Jordan and, Emmett Smith, whatever, football star, me, Walter Payton. You should have pictures of Chuck and I, a poster of us on your wall with a like a newspaper and writing, because back in the day when we used to have to get the USA Today box scores and write them down, Chuck and I were both commissioners at one time during this thing, during those days. Let me just tell you something. We invented PPR because it's way more fun, and literally the world should be rejoicing us and posterizing us.
On that note, on tonight's show, we're going to do a little Commissioner 101 segment where we discuss how to make, maybe if you're thinking about starting your own league, how to make it fun. And
We call that a segue.
yeah,
by
we're
the
segueing
way.
into that. For those of you that don't know him, Johnny freaking Ballgame. You can hit him up on X at John Espel 85.
Yeah, got that right.
I
Hey,
am
Chuck, where can they reach you?
at the Fantasy Reaper on
Boom.
X.
Do you know why you can reach him there? Because he's the freaking Fantasy Reaper.
Freaking Fantasy Reaper, Chuck Bishop. Welcome to the show, everyone, for the next hour. This is a special show tonight. We are going to do that Commissioner 101 segment, and we're going to do our first of 8 divisional breakdowns. We're going to talk about all of fantasy impact, and we're going to start with the AFC North, our favorite division this week. Oh, yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're just going to break down all the fantasy relevant people on the roster, who we like, who we don't like, etc. It should be fun. I know John's excited because the Bengals are one of his favorite teams.
They are. I grew up loving the Bengals and the Bears. Those are my 2 favorite teams. And again, for those of you who've watched the show, and I think we're up to 12 now. I think we're in double digits. you will all know that if the Bears and the Bengals play in the Super Bowl, I won't be able to pick it, and B, my head will actually explode and I will die that day. So there you
And
go.
he'll be officially out.
Yeah, I will be out for that. But I won't care because I will have died in complete bliss. And also, that's how you all know that I'm going to live forever, because it's never going to happen.
Probably not. Probably not. Especially not this year. All right. If you like PPR,
I don't like the way you put that. I don't like the way you put that, Chuck.
but if you like PPR, hit that like button. You
Boom.
could subscribe. But the number one thing you could do to help our channel beat that YouTube algorithm is to share the video with your friends. I know you got friends that that want to get more material for fantasy football. Maybe just have some fun with us on the show. Let them have a video. Send them the link. Send them the link. It's not that hard.
What are you holding it for yourself for? Share it. Share it with your people.
And for you 10 to 12 users or viewers that watch the show on the regular, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. All right. So for the next hour, sit back, have a pina colada, relax, and let Johnny Ballgame and the Reaper do their thing. Here we go. We're going to start off real quick. There's a couple news items we wanted to get to just before we get to our segments. CeeDee Lamb is expected to hold out of training camp if he doesn't get a new deal beforehand. John, is this even newsworthy? I mean, do we really expect him not to get a deal before training camp?
You know what? Normally, I would say a player of that caliber, I would absolutely expect, but I don't know what the bleep Dallas has been doing all off season anyway. So it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't have a deal. I think they're crazy. Remember, they let Emmitt Smith sit out for a game before they gave him his big deal when he was at like the peak of Emmitt Smithness. By the way, I've now mentioned Emmitt Smith twice, and I'm not a giant Emmitt Smith fan, but I do at least. I'm a fan, just not like a huge fan. So I don't want everybody to think, oh, he really loves Emmitt Smith. I don't. Walter Payton was the best running back who's ever played the game. But what I'm saying is Dallas never gave. They just don't seem to do right by people. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, but let's be real. I mean, without CeeDee Lamb, this team is a joke. Offensively, they need him. They're going to pay him, and they're going to have to pay him pretty big, but it's going to get done before training camp. There is no way. First of all, there's no way that CeeDee Lamb is going to sit out with the way that it's set up now where you get penalized each week you miss. There's no way he's going to sit out training camp, and there's no way Dallas is going to let it go that far. There's just no way. No. It's not going to happen.
No, I'm with you. I don't think so either.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. Christian McCaffrey.
I feel shocked.
According to Mike Shanahan, McCaffrey will see a lighter workload. Sure, buddy.
Adorable.
Doesn't he say that every year, John?
Yeah. Actually, I think last year he's like, no, I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to give it to him every minute I can, and he did. But yeah, I think he's not stupid. He's got to know the last time Christian McCaffrey had that big of a workload, what happened the very next year? Ooh, calf. Ooh, injury.
Yeah. I mean, he'd be wise to save him for a little bit for the playoffs, but I just don't think he's going to do it. I mean, he said this last year, we want him fresh for the playoffs, and then he basically led the league in touches. So
yeah, here's the thing. Who's the other running back they have who's actually pretty good?
Eli Mitchell.
Eli Mitchell, I think he was hurt for the beginning of the year last year, and I think Mitchell gets more touches this year, and I think they do try to ease him back. I think you're going to see Debo get a little more touches out of and kind of replace some of the McCaffrey so that he is a little fresher down the road. I don't like McCaffrey as the number one fantasy back this year.
That is the growing theme amongst all the people that you listen to on the radio and on TV. The growing theme is Christian McCaffrey's not their RB1 anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Fine, let him come to 2, and I'll take him at 2.
He's still 2 or 3.
I mean,
I still love him. When's the last time you had somebody who led the league in fantasy points do it again the next year?
Good question. That is a good question. That generally doesn't happen.
It generally doesn't happen.
I mean,
always there's an injury. Almost always there's something that happens because they were so worn out from the year before.
Especially in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
I think the last guy that might have done that was probably LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yeah, I was thinking Adrian Peterson, maybe like someone in
Maybe.
that, maybe that area.
Yeah.
But yeah, like lately it's like top of the fantasy food chain next year you're injured. Top of the fantasy food chain next year you're injured.
Well, anyway, I think it's a good thing if he gets him a little bit more rest, keeps him fresher, more efficient. I'm fine with
Yeah,
it.
I do too.
Still my RB1. All
I
right.
mean, if he's got less carries, but he's more effective because he's not as tired with those less carries, it's a win-win.
And I'm on record as saying I think Bijan Robinson is going to be the RB1 in fantasy football, but I'd still draft McCaffrey first because that's a safer pick to me than Bijan.
Can I
Just
sing it?
saying. Do it.
And it shall be Bijan, and it shall be a good man.
All right. Sorry.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
everyone.
John. All right. Alvin Kamara is also threatening to hold out of training camp without a new deal. Why? I mean, he's getting paid pretty good. He sucked last year. He's getting old.
Yeah, I don't understand the holdout of training camp after you've had a shitty year. I never get that. I get the people who've like, I've had 2 great years. I'm not getting paid what I'm worth. But he's had 2 down years and he's going, no, I should definitely get paid more. No, you shouldn't. Why don't you earn the contract you got first?
Again, not going to happen. Not going to hold out.
No,
And
he
they're
won't
not.
hold out.
And I don't think they're going to give him what he wants anyways. So it doesn't
Mm-mm.
matter. Brees Hall has proclaimed that he is back to his old self.
Oof.
And I just went
That's
from 6
dirty.
to midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, that is dirty.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, Chuck's had a love affair with Brees Hall for years, people.
That's my guy.
For those of you who aren't our official 12, I gotta tell you, when he says 6 to 12, he's not kidding. He's not kidding.
I'm not. That's why the camera will not pan down.
No. Well, he's not wearing pants anyway.
No.
But
It's a family show, John.
I mean, is it? Who's letting their kids watch this? No.
I mean, of the 12 people, the chances are maybe one is a kid. Maybe.
Yeah. Little kids love fantasy football. That is.
Last bit of news, Dak Prescott was caught walking in a walking boot, and the press was like asking him about it, and he kept chirping at him that his foot was fine. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, because John, when my foot's feeling good, I walk around with a walking boot sometimes just for fun.
Have you ever been in a walking boot, Chuck?
I have.
It's like a warm hug for your foot.
I
Isn't
mean,
it?
sure.
It's so nice. It just my foot feels good.
I mean, I think
It's not at all uncomfortable.
I think it ended up being just precautionary. He probably exerted
I think
himself a
so
little
too.
bit.
He said he had a sprained foot. I mean, this coach said he had a sprained foot, so
He's fine.
but it's not a big deal. It's fine.
He shed the walking boot, by the way, so it's really non-news. We're kind of reaching for content here because there's just nothing going on right now. So screw all that, John. Let's get to our first segment. We're going to talk some Commissioner 101 today. And what we're going to do is discuss things that we love about our fantasy football league and things that we don't love about our fantasy football league. If you're a new commissioner or you want to make changes in your league, we have some suggestions of things to avoid and things to do to make it better. So let's talk about that, John. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Let me start. I got one that I think people need to, and maybe you were going to talk about, but I don't know. I think first and foremost, you need to find, because we're all on platforms now, right? Websites, whatever. I'm not a giant fan of just like the standard template, hard to adjust kind of websites. I think you need to find a site that allows you to customize your points. And Chuck will probably talk about the way we customize our points because it's different than a lot of leagues, which I think is another really cool thing about the league, but I'll let Chuck talk about that piece. But for me, it's find a platform where you can make changes and make the league fun for you, fun for the people in your group, fun for the, sometimes you're like, if you're in a Yahoo league, and Chuck and I play in 4 or 5, sometimes more leagues a year. And so inevitably one of those is a Yahoo, one of those is a sleeper, one of those is something else. And they all have their different rules. And we're like, hey, can we do this? And it's like, nah, it's a Yahoo league. You can't do it. So try to find some platforms that actually work that you can actually adjust and customize a little bit.
So on that note, those of you that don't know, a lot of people know about this site, but some people don't. MyFantasyLeague.com has the most customization. It's a little pricey. You're going to pay somewhere around $80 for the whole season. You could divvy it up amongst your league mates, but
it's
you
nothing
can
if you're in
do
10, 12 league.
anything you can think of on that website as
It's
far as
awesome.
customization. It's awesome. It's a little bit old school. It's kind of like, it looks a little bit like older and whatnot, kind of stale, but man, you
But
can
it's
do
back.
anything.
Yeah, it's back office part though. The pieces that you need to drive it, so good. And like Chuck said, you can customize anything on it.
And on that note, I would like to say, stop playing just head to head. Head to head is the standard across the nation. Everyone plays head to head. But the best team is the team that scores the most points, John, in fantasy football.
Yeah.
When we play each other head to head, sure, it's fun. I want to beat you. You want to beat me. We talk smack. Great. But do I play defense, John? Can I stop you? Because
Nope.
last I checked, I can't. So
No.
it's kind of random. I've seen where guys that lead the league in points don't make the playoffs. And I've seen guys with the lower end amount of points win the whole freaking thing because they got lucky. You got 1 week where you score low points, but you happen to play the worst team. You have another week where you score the second most points, but you played the team that had the most points and you lost. To me, it's too random. You can do head to head, but also you should pay out for total points. And that's what we do, John.
Yeah.
50, it's almost 75-25. So we pay 75% to the team with the most points, the best team. And then we also pay 25% for the head-to-head champ.
That's right. We also pay second place in the most points as well, too.
And second place head-to-head, of course.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and second place head-to-head. That's right.
Yeah.
So we pay 4 places. I totally agree with that, Chuck. I love that we do that now. And I used to be completely against head-to-head. There's a little bit of it I like. So I like that it's about a quarter of it now because it is fun. Like when Chuck and I go against each other, Chuck and I have been doing this for a very long time and we think so much alike. It's actually creepy the way we think alike, but it's fun to go against each other and see like who's he putting in. And I'm like, he's got somebody in his lineup right now. I know that's not who he's going to end up playing. And it's just fun, that kind of thing. But the majority of your money's made on points. So go, field a team that's going to get the most points. That's just the name of the game.
And if you're a new commissioner and you're starting your league, what you need to do is get 10 to 12 guys, whatever size your league you want to do, that are social, that like to talk smack, that answer emails, that will pay their money on time, that are competitive, will fight all the way to the end. They'll never quit.
Yeah.
And they'll communicate with you, right? If you offer them a trade, they might reject the trade, but at least they'll respond. You want 12 guys that'll do that. You don't want guys that don't ever make moves, that don't trade with you, that don't respond to your emails, that don't really contribute to the league, right, John?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, the trash talk's just fun. Like, make it fun. Football's fun. Fantasy football is fun. When you're in a league with the right people, it's just fun. When you're in a league with the wrong people, it's miserable. So yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. On that note, the one thing Chuck said was, make sure they'll play to the end. One thing that we do in our league that I really like is we give weekly bonus winners starting in week 12?
Usually
13?
it's the last 4 to 5 weeks. I think it's 5 weeks.
Last 5 weeks. We give a bonus if you win. So even if you've had shitty teams for the entire year, you keep putting your team in for the rest of the year because you want to at least get the bonus. You can actually make back your entrance fee if you won the last 5 weeks, even if you've had a crap team all year.
Yeah, so we pay out $50 or something, sometimes more, to the team that wins the week. So it gives you some incentive to keep playing. That way you won't quit. Because there's nothing worse than a guy that just quits, abandons his team, doesn't put in a lineup. I mean, that sucks for a commissioner. And it sucks for the league. It
sucks for your head-to-head. It sucks for total points. It's just the whole thing's bad. So, yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to harp on what John was talking about earlier, and that is the point system. You need a good point system. And if you just go on Yahoo or Sleeper or whatever, and you just create their league with their, just plug in their point system, that sucks. I'm going to tell you why. The norm nowadays is 4 points for a passing touchdown and 6 points for a rushing touchdown from your quarterback. And to me, that doesn't make any sense. John, when Patrick Mahomes fires a laser in the back of the end zone to Travis Kelce, How many points does he get for that?
6 points.
6 points in the NFL. And then when Anthony Richardson runs it in, how many points does he get for that in the NFL?
I believe that's 6 points, Chuck.
Okay, so why are we differentiating the amount of points you get for a touchdown? That makes no sense to me. It also devalues pocket passers and it overpowers the running quarterbacks. That's dumb. I'm sorry, but in your league last year, guys like Patrick Mahomes or like Dak Prescott probably didn't finish in the top 5. Whereas other guys like Jackson or, I'm sure Anthony Richardson would have been a top 5 quarterback. Or how about Fields? Fields was a top 10 quarterback in your league last year. You know who he wasn't a top 10 in which league? That would be our league, because we give points for a completion. We take a point away for an incompletion. So you have to be efficient. And we give 6 points for all touchdowns. And we don't give you 1 point for every 30 yards or 50 yards passing. We give you 1 point for every 20 yards passing. That way, the pocket passers who are good quarterbacks get points.
It's a passing league.
It's a passing league.
Yeah.
And you have to, I don't know why these leagues try to give the advantage to the running quarterbacks. It's all about running quarterbacks in fantasy football. We need to even it out. You want guys like Patrick Mahomes and Prescott, who had a great year last year. They're the guys that should lead your league in points, not Anthony Richardson, who, by the way, I love. But
he's going to be great this year, but he's
great.
He's probably not the best quarterback.
Justin Fields is a terrible quarterback according to NFL circles. He's the backup to Russ Wilson on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. That makes no sense. So fix your point system. And by the way, give points for everything, right?
That was going to be my point. Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. So here's the one thing I like that we do is we give points for performance. So if you've got a 100-yard rusher, not only do they get the points for the 100 yards, we give them a bonus at 100 yards. So they get an extra 5 points if they hit a 100 yards. If a quarterback hits 300 yards, they get a bonus. If a receiver hits 100 yards, they get a bonus. Running backs either pass, receiving or running, and they still get a bonus at 100 yards. So I love that we do those kinds of things. It's to me, it's just it makes it fun. It makes it just like in the NFL. Players who excel get more money. When you have those players that excel on your fantasy team, they should get more points.
Absolutely. I mean, our running backs get like 0.25 per carry, right?
Yeah.
Receivers, if they catch 10 balls, they get a bonus because they had a big game. Like, we just give points for everything. And what that does is it just makes everything more exciting.
It's so exciting.
More points, more excitement. It's fair for everyone. Everyone gets them. But again, this also differentiates the good quarterbacks from the bad. Justin Fields never throws for 300 yards, so he's not going to get that bonus. Patrick Mahomes does, though, Johnny. Josh Allen does, though, Johnny. And those Dak Prescott had plenty of those. They get those bonuses. So it makes the good quarterbacks in the NFL also good in fantasy. That's what you want.
But also, it does give Justin Fields the credit for his legs. If he gets 100 yards with his legs, he's going to get those bonus points just like a running back or receiver would. So, you're still, you don't want to not give the running quarterbacks their due, but you just want to make sure the passing quarterbacks also get their due. And because really the quarterbacking is more about passing. So we also give points for overtime, by the way. Like, you do something in overtime when it's money time. You score a touchdown in overtime, you get more points for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
big plays, big results.
Yep.
So in our league, quarterbacks go in the first round, like the good ones. Okay. And there's a big difference between Josh Allen versus say Justin Fields. Like last year, Justin Fields is like a 6th, 7th round pick. Josh Allen goes in the first round in our league, right? And that's the way you want it. Because in the NFL, quarterbacks go in the first round if they're good, John. Sure. Right? But in your fantasy league out there, guys, you're waiting on quarterbacks till at least the 3rd round. And most of the good ones, like after Josh Allen and Mahomes and like the normal guys, you're going to pick in the 7th or 8th or 9th round. You're going to wait on quarterbacks. That's what they say. We can't wait on quarterbacks in our league because you know what? No. If you do, you get stuck with the crap. And in our league, that hurts.
Yeah. Good luck winning with Phillip Rivers.
I'll give you an example.
I'm bitter about Phillip Rivers for many years, by the way. Just want you to know that.
Yeah. Here's an example. Dak Prescott scored 740 points overall in our league last year. While the quarterback 12, okay, CJ Stroud scored 562 points. That's a difference of 178 points, which is more than 10 points a week.
Yeah.
So they're both quarterback
that
ones.
could win or lose your week.
But see the difference? Yeah. Huge difference. Huge difference.
Huge.
What else you got, John?
We don't play kickers.
Damn right.
We don't play kickers. Stop it.
Why do you need
Stop
a kicker? So random.
Yeah, it's just stop it. There's no reason.
Get rid of your kickers and open up a flex spot. How about that?
Yeah. Now, we also don't do individual defensive players, but we do defense. We do all, like, you have to pick a defense, a team defense, which is fantastic. And we give them a bunch of points. Sacks, fumbles, interceptions.
Touchdowns.
Hold them to less points. Guess what? You get more points.
Hold them to fewer yards.
You get more points.
Right.
Just like a defense would get credit in the NFL. So again, back to what Chuck was saying, get points for everything. It's just fun. It's fun.
It is fun. I love it.
I do too.
All right. Make sure everyone in your league understands the rules and the scoring system. That's most important. Create flexibility for your players. Don't have roster limits like, oh, you can't have more than 4 running backs. If a guy wants to hoard running backs, let him, because he's going to be weak elsewhere. Don't do that. Don't limit your players. And one more thing. A lot of leagues are going to the super flex leagues where you could play 2 quarterbacks, John. I don't know how you feel about it. I think it's dumb.
Not a big fan.
And the reason why is when you watch an NFL game, how many quarterbacks play at one time, John? One. So why do we get to play 2? That doesn't make sense.
Makes no sense.
Here's the other reason. If you're in a 12 or 14 team league, right, and you all take 2 quarterbacks because you got to start 2, right? That's 24 quarterbacks gone. Is there enough quarterbacks left that actually start in the NFL to have a backup on your team for everyone? No. There's not.
No.
You need 36 quarterbacks and only 32 start. So there's going to be 4 teams that don't have a backup quarterback. That's not fair to me.
It's just not as smart.
Much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if you're a commissioner and you're starting your league and you have a person go, I don't think we should do PPR, you should immediately kick that person out of your league and probably pick them out of your inner circle as a friend. So PPR is the way to go. Half PPR is stupid. No PPR is moronic at this point. I can't even for the life of me fathom why somebody wants to play in a league where the final score of the fantasy week is like 42-18. You know what I mean? Like who wants to play in that league? That's not exciting. It's not fun. You're just getting credit for touchdowns. I don't know who wants to be in that league.
I don't want to be in that league, John.
I don't want to be in that league either. Do you know why? We invented PPR.
That's right.
That's what you guys used to have to do.
Yeah. And you know what? And we punish people too for their mistakes. If they throw a pick, it's -3. If they throw a pick that turns into a pick 6, that's -6. If they fumble the ball away, it's -3. There are some negatives too. If the defense gives up more than 30 points, you lose points, etc.
Yeah.
You can do it both ways, but what you
We call
need
it
to
taking
do,
the hit, and boy, you take the hit.
It hurts.
Miserable.
It hurts. So do yourself a favor and beef up your scoring for everything. Don't differentiate touchdowns. They're all worth 6 points. And for God's sakes, make sure it's PPR. just do PPR.
There's no other reason not to.
There's no other reason. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to add for new commissioners, John, about how to make the league fun or what sucks in other leagues that you played in to avoid?
No, I think we're pretty open on our trades, right? Like we don't do a lot of monitoring of, I mean, we'll monitor the trades because we do want to make sure they're fair. But for the most part, we're not gonna, if somebody is gonna be moronic enough to trade somebody else, and it's a stupid trade, it's kind of on them. In the NFL, and if an owner trades somebody and it's a dumb one to another owner, the NFL doesn't go, don't do that. No, they just have the trade. Go ahead. You're stupid. Now, if you think people are gaming, if you catch them doing that and it's collusion of some kind, That's why we do a trade deadline, and our trade deadline is actually pretty early in the season. What is it after week? Do you remember, Chuck?
12 maybe.
Yeah, it's after week 12. So before that, there's probably not a lot of collusion going on. It's probably not that, anything like that. Plus, because we give bonuses, we tend to have people not want to collude because they still want to win money towards the end of the year. So
Sure.
I think people put too much emphasis on that. Yeah, if one guy is continually giving another guy all of his stars, then you might have to step in, and that's probably not somebody you're going to want in your league next year anyway. So I think just let the trades happen, man. If somebody's taking a little bit of advantage of somebody and they're dumb enough to let them do it, they're dumb enough to let them do it. And the rest of you, shame on you for not trying to do something similar.
Yeah, and if you're the commissioner, first of all, don't set it up where people can vote on the trade to see if they want to veto
No.
it. Because people like if I'm in second, right, and John's in first, and John makes a great trade, in the back of my mind, I'm going, oh, that helps John, and I'm trying to catch him. F that. I'm gonna hit veto, right?
Right.
I'm biased, and that happens all the time. Or the owners don't respond and it doesn't get vetoed because they didn't respond in time, right? And you have to wait. Like you make a trade. If John and I make a trade, we don't want to wait 3 days or whatever for people to vote on it. We want to make the move right away and get our team going, right?
Yes.
If you're the commissioner of the league, don't do that. And also don't veto trades, period, unless you think there's collusion involved. That's the only reason you would ever veto a trade. Otherwise, just let it go, man. Let it play out.
Also, I'm not a big waiver process person. I like if you're a free agent, you're a free agent. I like that we lock them, so somebody can't drop somebody and a collusion type of thing, so somebody can go right and pick them up. So we do lock somebody for 24 hours after they're dropped. But for the most part, free agents are free agents. And we pick them up, we drop them, we do whatever. You got to know what's going on in your league, who's on the bench, who's on the waiver wires. It really makes for owners who have to understand the league better and understand what they've got going on. They've got to keep up with the injuries. They've got to keep up with the things that happened in the weekend before. I love that we don't do the waiver process. I hate it. I hate the waiver process.
Yeah, and a lot of leagues they make it so that the last place team gets the first priority, or you take turns getting priority in the way. Like, you know what? Pay attention. If you see someone's running back go down and the backup's on the waiver wire, go get them.
Yeah.
And beat John to it because he's going to get them pretty quick.
I've made a lot of money on the waiver wire, people.
That's right. That's right. We if you drop someone, we wait 24 hours before someone else can pick them up.
Yep.
But other than that, it's first come, first serve, man. Bombs away. And I love it.
Go get him, Tiger.
Go get him. All right, John, let's move on to the segment we've all been waiting for. Our first divisional fantasy breakdown. And we're starting in the AFC North, our favorite division, because we think that's the best division.
We do.
So, according to
Screw saving the best for last. We're going best right up front.
Right up front. Here we go. So, this is the expected win total for each team, and we're going to break them down in the same order. The Bengals are expected to win 10.5 games. The Ravens at 10.2. Steelers, 8.7 wins. And the Browns, 8.5 wins. First of all, I'm a little surprised at that, like that the Ravens aren't on top, and especially after they got the running back that they got, Derrick Henry. I'm a little surprised the Browns are expected to come in last, but what do you think, John?
Yeah, I think I would have ranked. I'm not as surprised about the Bengals. I think everybody thinks with Burrow back. I mean, they did great with a backup quarterback last year, almost made the playoffs. Burrow's back. I think they actually might replace Boyd with a little more talented wide receiver and a younger wide receiver, somebody who's a little bit faster. So you've still got the 3 kick-ass receivers. You've got a better tight end now. The running game's a little bit of a question mark for me. So you're right. I wouldn't have been surprised if they'd have gone Ravens first, Bengals second, because every article I read, it's probably they switch up everyone. So I like it, of course, because I'm a Bengals fan.
Absolutely.
So I assume the Bengals should win. But yeah.
Absolutely. So let's just talk Bengals. Let's get it going.
Let's dog about
Cincinnati Bengals. All right. So what they do in the offseason, they got some running backs. They let Mixon go. Let's talk about that. So they let Mixon go. They bring in Zach Moss in the backfield. I mean, what are your thoughts on this backfield right now? They still have Chase Brown. Do you like Who do you like better, Moss or Brown?
I like Brown better. I think he's a better fit for the offense. I think he's a better receiver out of the backfield. I feel like Zach Moss is kind of a poor man's Joe Mixon. So, and Joe Mixon was good. It wasn't great in this offense. I actually think he's going to do much better when he's in Houston, actually. I think Chase Brown's a better fit, and he showed some real bursts there towards the end of the year last year. So I really like Chase Brown much better than Zach Moss.
So last year, Joe Mixon had 1,410 yards and 12 total touchdowns. So with Zach Moss and Chase Brown, they're trying to kind of match that production. And I think they can do it, especially I think Zach Moss is going to be like the goal line back and the short yardage back, and perhaps maybe the first, second down back sometimes. But I do think Chase Brown, when they're behind or when they're in the passing situations, the 2-minute drill, I really think they're going to go to Chase Brown in this situation. I think he's more explosive. He's got good hands. He's a good pass catcher. I like it. I like it a lot. And the value where you can get Chase Brown in the draft is why I like Chase Brown better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's face it, with Joe Burrow, you're going to be in passing downs. I mean, you're always going to be in a passing formation because you've got Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
I love Chase Brown in this offense. He's just fast. They love speed in this offense. It reminds me of, the Dolphins a little bit. It reminds me of what the Chiefs used to have. It's like speed over everything else, and that's what these guys have. And Chase Brown is the much faster back.
Absolutely. All right, let's move to the wide receiving core. So it's a little different. I mean, you still got Jamar Chase, you still got T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd has exited, and they drafted a kid that I really, really like. John, why don't you tell us about him?
Yeah, Jermaine Burton played for Alabama. He was their leading receiver. Bama didn't have a great year last year, quite frankly. I mean, they did, but their offense wasn't a great offense. But he still scored, I think it was 10 touchdowns or something like that in college last year. So I think he's faster. I think he's more nimble than Tyler Boyd was as the third receiver. They've got a host of other receivers in that receiver room as well that can play that third back. But I like him a lot. Trenton Irwin is another one, and they've got Iazivas or Ivosis, Andrea, whatever that other guy's name is. Not gonna be here anymore.
Yeah, not gonna play much.
Not gonna play much.
Yeah.
But I think Jermaine Burton's gonna end up being the third wide receiver, and I like all three of those receivers. I love a T. Higgins in a contract year. I very much enjoy T. Higgins this year because he's coming off a subpar year last year. He's motivated because he got tagged this year. He wants a big deal, and he's going to go out and prove to people why he deserves it.
Yeah, that could happen, definitely. But I'm always a guy that likes to follow the money, and they're going to pay Chase, right? They're not going to pay T. Higgins. So
no, they're not going to. He's auditioning for his next team.
Exactly. So he's motivated, but I don't know if the Bengals are motivated to use him as much. That's the key. I love Jamar Chase this year. I loved him last year. I'm not going to lie. He got injured. So did Joe Burrow. So things kind of fell apart. But I'm going right back to the well. I like Jamar Chase as a top 5, maybe a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football this year. You like him as number 1?
Yes. Jamar Chase will be the number 1 wide receiver when it's done.
Oh, wow. That's
just like the next guy that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Quarterback, Joe Burrow.
Let's talk about Joe Burrow. The biggest question for me is, will Joe Burrow remain healthy for the whole season?
I think they did enough with their line. I think Joe is in the best shape he's been in years. Had a healthy offseason. Didn't, get his appendix taken out, didn't have any kind of surgeries, didn't get hit by a golf cart or whatever. I mean, he's the guy. So I think Joe is going to have a similar year to the year that they went to the Super Bowl, only I think it's going to be even better. I honestly believe this. I said it today to Chuck, and we have a text group of us, with Sir Poops a lot and the fantasy Rolls Royce. And I truly believe Joe Burrow will be the number 1 fantasy quarterback this year.
So if Joe Burrow is the number 1 quarterback and Jamar Chase is the number 1 wide receiver, the Bengals are going to be the number 1 scoring offense in the league, John.
Sure are.
And I know another guy you like is Mike Gesicki, who they picked up at tight end.
I like him. I like him as a player. I think he's going to be a nice complementary person. I'm not drafting him this year, except for maybe as a backup tight end. There's a lot of sharing that has to go on in that offense. I mean, Jermaine, Jamar, basically anybody with a J. Chase Brown, you've got, Zach Moss, all those guys. Everybody's got to eat. So I don't know that he's going to get a ton of play, but he makes them better because he's going to play that role that, what was it, Uzama played a couple years ago when they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That guy it was a perfect tight end for that system because he was complimentary, could get him down the middle of the field when everybody else was going on the outside if everybody else is covered. So I think Gesicki makes the offense better. I don't know that I'll draft him from a fantasy standpoint, but he definitely helps Joe Burrow.
Okay. Last couple notes on Joe Burrow. He put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle during the offseason. So he's really bulked up. I like that. Maybe he can withstand some more hits and stuff. And I like kind of like the Bengals have quietly beefed up their offensive line a little bit. So maybe they can protect him better.
Yeah.
I like the fantasy prospects. Get your Bengals this year. I think they're going to be very, very
Bengals.
good. Very good. Okay. On to the Baltimore Ravens, John.
On to the next one. Why don't you talk about a running back? Because you love this move. Talk about maybe the free agent acquisition of the year.
All right. So the two running backs that were there last year, they moved on and went to San Diego or the Chargers.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this for years that we thought the Ravens would land Derrick Henry at some point in a trade or whatever. They got him in free agency this year. And to me, he's the perfect fit for this offense. The offensive line is tremendous. They always lead the league in rushing. They're going to lead the league again in rushing. And, this guy can take a pounding. I mean, the guy, you can give the guy the rock 30 times if you need to like once you get a lead, which the Ravens do quite a bit. They get a big lead. Then you start to pound Derrick Henry. He's going to be the goal line back. I just love the fit in this offense. I think Derrick Henry is being severely undervalued in drafts. You can get him in the third, fourth round sometimes. I think Derrick Henry's like an RB1. He's a top 12 back.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. I think Derrick Henry, who also, he led the league in rushes last year. He did not lead the league in rushing yards because he did play behind a crop line.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be playing behind a much better line, like you said. And I just think he's going to be hungry this year. I think, it's funny because Ravens have a history of picking up people from Tennessee that they thought, think Steve McNair, think Mason. Back in the day, all those guys came from Tennessee, went to Baltimore, and had second careers in Baltimore. I feel like Derrick Henry's the next guy that's going to do that. I think it's just funny that all these guys have gone from Tennessee to Baltimore and had great careers, second careers.
Yeah, and I mean, Keenan Mitchell tore his ACL pretty late last season. He's not going to be starting the season. And they don't really have anyone else. I mean, I don't think Derrick Henry will be like the third down back. He's not going to be catching a lot of balls, but I don't think he's going to need to, John.
You know what's funny is he said they're letting him catch more balls out of the backfield, and he always wanted to do that in Tennessee.
That's just gravy, John.
That's butter on the bread, my friend.
Absolutely. All right. Let's talk about the quarterback, because me and you, we've always seen things a little differently about Lamar Jackson. I personally think he's a terrible freaking quarterback. He runs around, and he can make plays. He's a great running quarterback, but passing-wise, I think he's terrible. I watch him play. He's so inaccurate. He holds onto the ball too long. But go ahead, John. Tell me how you think Lamar Jackson is going to fare in fantasy this year.
I honestly didn't like Lamar's receivers last year, except for Zay Flowers. I didn't think his receivers had a great year last year. He didn't help them by any stretch of the imagination. But I mean, his tight end position, both Isaiah Likely and our guy
Mark Andrews.
God, Mandrews. How did I forget that guy? Mandrews was hurt. Isaiah Likely was there. He did a pretty good job. I think we'll see a lot of 2 tight end sets this year. So I think both of those guys are going to get their share. I don't think he's as bad of a quarterback as Chuck does, and I love his legs. And if you're in a fantasy league that also gives a bonus for 100-yard rushers. Guess what? Lamar Jackson can rush. He can rush for a lot of yards. Now, I don't think he will rush for as many yards this year because he's got a fellow running back named Derrick Henry. I don't know if you heard of him or not, but oh, wait a minute. That's right. We just talked about him. Lamar's good. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think he's good, and I think he gets a lot of fantasy points. He did have that one year where he threw a ton of touchdowns as well as run a bunch of touchdowns. I think he's got that in him. I think Zay Flowers is going to be better this year. He's in his second year. Rashad Bateman, I think it's his third year. This might be year 3, maybe 4, but
it's year 4.
Yeah, year 4. But he was injured a lot last year, so I don't think last year really counts for him. So this is kind of his year 3. Mandrews, likely. You've got old guy Nelson Aguilar is on this team. Devontae Walker is a rookie that they got who I really like. So I think you've got a better wide receiver room this year, and I think you've got receivers who will play better for him and make better catches.
So I just talked a lot of smack about Lamar, but I'm going to say it right now. I think he's going to have a good fantasy year, John, because of Derrick Henry. Okay,
yeah.
The offensive line is very good, and they're going to run the ball a lot, but teams are going to have to stack the box. And what does that mean for the receivers? They're one-on-one.
Play action.
Okay, so there's a lot of weaponry for Lamar, and they're all running routes one-on-one. They have speed in Zay Flowers. They have speed in Rashad Bateman as well. The tight ends are good. Both of them are very good. They get open over the middle. Yeah. I think he's going to do really well. I think he's not going to throw for like 5,000 yards, but he's going to be really good.
It's also going to be, kind of year 2. I think it's year 2 of the new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I think so. He'll be a little more used to that. I think where he's good is off play action, quick passes off that. When you've got a Derrick Henry, you can run a lot of play action. So I really like him this year as a fantasy quarterback. He's definitely a fantasy top 5 at the end of the year because of his legs and his arm.
In either format, right? Our format or the general format, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
I'm with you on that. Are there any other Ravens you wanted to talk about before we move on, John?
I love Zay Flowers. I know I talked a little bit about the receivers, but let's talk about Zay Flowers. That kid's like a human joystick, man. He is fast. He's shifty. He's nimble. I think they'll use him a little more in the running game too to spell our man Derek, and they'll a little bit like they use the receivers in San Francisco. So I like Zay Flowers quite a bit, and I do think Rashad Bateman actually comes in like new contract. I think they really are counting on him to do something special, and he showed me enough the year before last that I think he's going to be really good.
All right, excellent. All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Do we have to?
Mike Tomlin, amazes me.
God love him.
17 years as the Steelers coach, and gosh, the last 6 to 7 years, he's really lacked a lot of offensive talent.
Yeah.
Ever since the Bees back in the day, Roethlisberger and you had Antonio Brown and all those guys.
Yeah.
And Le'Veon Bell, but since then they've been pretty bad, and somehow they've never had a losing season. John.
Still wins. And this is his best team yet, I think, since they made it to the Super Bowl with Ben. I think this team is loaded on defense, first of all. Yeah.
And obviously they brought in Farty Brown, so they're going to run the ball and they're going to share carries in the backfield. So my question to you is, who do you like better in the Steelers backfield? Najee Harris?
I like Jaylen Warren better.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. There's something missing with Najee, and I don't know what it is, but I think Jaylen Warren looks faster, has more pop. He's better, more efficiency with the ball. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I like Jaylen Warren in all formats.
Okay, so this is a tough one for me because I'm trying to make the parallel between the Falcons and the Steelers, like Falcons last year because of Artie Smith, right? So to me, I think Najee gets more carries because Algier had more carries last year, John. So I think it's going to be very similar. So I don't trust Artie Smith. I like Warren better. Trust me. I like Warren better than Najee. I just don't trust Artie Smith to use him properly. And I feel like people are going to be disappointed. Am I wrong?
Maybe. maybe, but here's my thing. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option for Najee Smith or Najee Harris. So it means they may already feel a certain type of way about him. Jalen Warren can play the every down back role. It's not like he can't. It would be one thing if he was like super slight and skinny or whatever. He's shown he can run every down just like Najee can. He's faster than Najee. He hits a hole faster than Najee. Artie Smith's going to want somebody who can hit that hole like Derrick Henry used to do back when he made his money with the Titans as a really good offensive coordinator. So I still like Jalen Warren, but it could be a near even split, just like it was last year between these two. So it's not a situation I really want that many shares of, quite frankly. Either way, but if I was going to pick one, I'd pick Jalen.
All right, fair enough. I could see that. I just, like I said, I don't trust the man. I feel like Najee is going to get more carries, like 60% of the carries, and a lot of the goal line work, because that's just the way he operates. He's the bigger, stronger, more powerful back. So we'll see. Let's talk about the quarterback situation. They obviously made separate trades to get Russell Wilson in here, and then they got Justin Fields. I mean, for me, John, I think Russell Wilson is cooked. I don't think he's a good quarterback. He holds the ball too long. He throws a nice deep ball, which is fine for George Pickens, but he doesn't make good decisions. And I feel like the added weapon of running the ball and getting away and using your feet to make plays bodes well for Justin Fields to eventually win out on that job. I think they'll start slow and then they'll figure it out, and Justin Fields will be the quarterback going down the stretch.
Yeah, I think they might start with Russell week 1.
They will.
But I think Justin gets more games where he'll be the starting quarterback. I like Justin Fields better in this group. I would like to see him be I like Justin Fields, but again, I was a Bears fan. I mean, I am a Bears fan. I'm an Ohio State fan. So obviously I like Justin Fields and always have. I think he's got the talent. I don't think he had as much talent around him when he was with the Bears, and I don't think he had a great line. So Steelers have a much better line. I think we'll get to see a little bit of that. We do know Artie Smith likes the running quarterbacks because he had them, when he was there in Atlanta and used them. So even with Tannehill, he used his mobility quite a bit. So I think Justin Fields ends up winning it. I don't want shares of either of those two quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't either. If you're a George Pickens owner, you want Russell Wilson to be the quarterback. Russell Wilson throws the deep ball. He threw 10 touchdowns.
Fields can throw a deep ball. Fields can throw a deep ball. But sure. Russell Wilson hit Cortland Sutton quite a bit last year.
10 times. He zeroed in on him. And so that can happen for Pickens. So if you have Pickens, you want Russell Wilson to be your quarterback. Having said that,
is this not the worst wide receiver room in the NFL?
I was just going to say, having said that, this is the worst wide receiver trio, whatever,
of all time.
In at least in the NFL this year. Other than George Pickens, I mean, there's some hope for Roman Wilson to be good. He's a rookie they drafted. What do you think of Roman Wilson? Yeah, what do you think of him?
I think he'll end up being the number 2 wide receiver on this team. It's not going to be Van Jefferson. It's not going to be Calvin Austin. It's not going to be Quez Watkins. He didn't do anything in Philadelphia when he had the shot. I like Roman Wilson, quite frankly, to be the number 2 wide receiver. Again, that's not saying much.
It really isn't. It's not saying much. Also, it's Artie Smith again as the coordinator. And if you look at the Falcons under his tenure, they're the worst passing team in the league. They're not going to throw much. Okay.
But again, he wasn't the offensive coordinator. I know he called plays as the head coach.
He did.
But it's very different than just being the offensive coordinator. And A.J. Brown became A.J. Brown when he was with the Tennessee Titans under Artie Smith.
Sure, but they still didn't throw the ball a lot.
No, but they made the throws count. How many touchdowns did A.J. Brown catch when he's wide open because of play action pass?
And A.J. Brown is a beast on his own. I love A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
George Pickens is not A.J. Brown, but
but he can catch the ball.
He can catch the ball.
He can make uncontested contested catches and all that stuff.
And he made one of the most amazing catches we've ever seen in the NFL.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's totally capable of that.
I think he's a top 10 wide receiver, no matter who wins the quarterback job. That's how good I think George Pickens is.
Pickens is a top 10 wide
receiver. He's literally the only fantasy player that I want on this team.
I actually would agree with that statement, but I cannot agree with the Pickens
maybe
will be a
top 15. I mean, maybe I'm going a little bit high on the top 10, but he's going to be the only guy that catches anything.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like he'll get volume. He may be covered a lot, but he can catch those balls when he's covered. I think he's going to get enough volume and enough touchdowns that he's going to be it'll be at least a top 15 wide receiver.
I think he's a much better pick in best ball because he's going to have those explosive games where he catches, 4 balls for 120 yards and a touchdown, right? But he's also going to have games where he catches 1 ball or 2 balls because that's what happens in a Russell Wilson led offense. I'm just telling you.
That's how you play the game.
It's just what's going to happen. So Pickens is going to be volatile if you can stomach that. I don't know.
Best of luck to you.
He's going in the 4th round in drafts. It's risky.
It's risky. It's a little risky.
It's a little risky, but I mean, yes, he is capable of a top 10 wide receiver finish.
I will say this: the Browns will finish higher than the Steelers. I think the Steelers might end up with their first losing season this year.
Oh, you really think? I don't think that. Their defense is so good, and their
defense is good, and they'll figure out a way. And I'm a Tomlin believer. Believe me, I've doubted that guy before, and I'm not doing it again. But I do think I think they're last place in the division, but I think the division's just a really good division.
What do we think of Freiermuth with Russell Wilson at quarterback?
Yeah, I don't mind him actually with either of the quarterbacks, because I think Fields will check down a little bit, and I think he'll go to his tight end. So I do like I actually forgot about Freiermuth. I like him a little bit. If you miss out on one of the top tight ends, I think you can wait for a little bit, and I think you can pick up a Freiermuth, and he'll be as good as any of the other mid-tier tight ends that you got.
I'm with you. I wouldn't want Freiermuth as my tight end 1.
Nope.
Unless you really waited a long time and just
yeah, like if it's an emergency tight end 1
Yeah.
because you went, I don't care about tight ends. I don't think they're good after 1 or 2. Which, I mean, that argument can be made. Like, after the first couple, does it really matter? You can just put them all in the box and shake them up, and
Might as well wait.
about the same amount of points.
Yeah, might as well wait. If you don't get
I'm
one of those top
a
3,
streamer sometimes with tight ends if I don't
Yeah.
get one of the better ones. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Last team in this division. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. And we're going to start with the guy who loves the rub and tugs. Deshaun Watson, because he's the biggest question mark. They're paying him all that money. They've given him multiple opportunities to get right. Now he's supposedly healthy. He's coming into the season. They've added weapons around him, which we're going to talk about. But I want to get your take on what you think gut-wise Deshaun Watson's going to do this year.
First of all, I've been a detractor of Deshaun since since I think he quit on his team, went to Cleveland, basically molested chicks, went to a team purposely, I think, because the running back's last name is Chubb. I just think I think Deshaun's actually gonna have a pretty good year this year. I think maybe I do think he was rusty from being off for a couple of years. I think last year he started to show signs, got injured again, a little bit of a wuss.
Wait, you're saying he was rusty? So why didn't they use a little bit of oil in the?
I know they should have lubed him up.
I mean, they did.
Just not in the right places. I think he's gonna have the best receiver core he's had since he was in Houston, though. I really love Cooper and Jerry Jeudy together. I think those two right there, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But I like Deshaun Watson this year much better.
So Elijah Moore is much better fit as the 3rd wide receiver rather than the 2nd option.
Absolutely.
And Jerry Jeudy's still young. He's shown flashes. I mean, it's not really fair to judge him based on a couple seasons with Russell Wilson, right? And the other quarterbacks that have been there. If you can get Deshaun Watson to at least be 80% of what he used to be, this could be a very dangerous offense, John. I mean, those Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy, woo, that's a good and Elijah Moore.
Deshaun's got a deep ball, and that's
does.
Cooper and Jeudy and Elijah Moore. They can all go after that ball. Hell, Cedric Tillman can go after that ball as their 4th receiver. So plus they got a tight end. Let's not forget about their tight end.
David Njoku's a very good tight end, very athletic.
The Joker.
Yeah, he really is. You know who he reminds me of, John? David Njoku reminds me of Vernon Davis. Remember him?
Yeah.
Took him a while to figure
Perennial
it out.
49ers tease.
And then all of a sudden he got it. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of what and body style and they're huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
The way he plays, the
The way he
anger
plays,
that which
yeah.
they play.
Very similar,
Yeah.
but Njoku broke out last year, had a great year. And
Yeah.
I mean, if Watson doesn't feed him the ball, then there's something wrong.
Yeah. Hey, Chuck, remind me, who had a Johnny Ballgame gut feeling last year about Njoku and said he was going to have a breakout year? Can you remind me who that was?
Yeah, go back and watch the video. I think it was Johnny Ballgame.
It was me.
It was Johnny. Let's not beat around the bush. It was Johnny. His gut was rumbling.
I love that dude. I love him. I love him again this year. I actually really like him. He is a tight end I will target.
All right, now we got to talk about the running backs there. We'll start with Nick Chubb. He went down with the devastating knee injury, like really bad knee injury. And people are overdrafting Nick Chubb. Folks, I'm telling you right now, Nick Chubb is not going to play the first 6 weeks of the NFL season.
Really? You think they're going to put him on the
he's going to be
on the list?
PUP. I'd be shocked if he's not on the PUP, John.
Yeah, I would too. He was a bad injury. It was a bad injury. And I haven't heard anything. Like, have you heard anything about him this year?
All I've heard is he's like they always say, ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It really means they're right on schedule. That's all it means.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if he doesn't start on the PUP, which is possible, they're going to slow play him. Do you guys remember Breece Hall last year? Breece Hall coming off a devastating knee injury. Not as bad as Nick Chubb, by the way. Not even close. He had the torn ACL.
And it was earlier in the year.
He had really like a really slow start to the season. He didn't start really propelling until 7-8 weeks into the season. Yeah. So, and Nick Chubb's injury was way worse. And they have Jerome Ford there, who did very well last year, John, who was a running back too. Like he was good. So why would they rush Nick Chubb back?
They won't. Also, a couple things to keep an eye on. Jack Conklin, really good offensive lineman, has a back injury right now.
Mm-hmm.
Dwan Jones coming off a knee injury, I think it was. Yeah, knee injury from last year. And then do not discount the loss of Bill Callahan as the line coach. So all of those things to me stack up against Nick Chubb anyway. Even if he was healthy, I'd be worried. But now he's got the knee injury. Don't draft Nick Chubb, please. I'm asking all of you. Don't do it. Maybe stash him for the end of the year if you've got a deep bench. That's fine. Or you've got a injured reserve spot you can put him on. But I don't feel like he's going to have that kind of year. Even toward the end of the year, I don't like him next year or this year.
I mean, maybe come playoff time, like in your fantasy playoffs, maybe he's rounding into form and he's starting to do his
or
thing.
Maybe they go, holy shit, Ford's really good, and you know what? Chubb was getting a little bit old anyway.
Or maybe they make a move and trade for another running back. We don't know what's going to come down. All I know is Nick Chubb's not healthy. And
no way he can be.
There's no way he can be. People are taking him, I think, in the 9th, 10th round, which is, where a lot of RB 2 and 3s are going, late 2s and RB 3s are going. And I'd much rather have depth at my wide receiver, a running back position that I can count on. And I don't want Nick Chubb to be anywhere sniffing my top 3 running backs. There's no way.
Yeah.
Even if you had an IR spot and you put him on there, that's fine. You shouldn't draft him until the late rounds.
Right.
There's always a price where you could pay for someone, right, John? But
absolutely.
I mean, always. But let's not overpay for Nick Chubb based on his name. Are there any other Browns?
Even if you like Chubbs.
Even if you like Chubbs, and I love Chubb, let me tell you. As I already told you earlier. Any other Cleveland Browns, John, that you want to touch upon that you think could be fantasy relevant? I mean, you mentioned Cedric Tillman. I've heard good things out of camp.
Yeah,
he's really
heard good things.
Yeah.
A lot of people think he's going to replace Elijah Moore as the third receiver.
I could see that.
I could see it too. Elijah, after that first year, has never really shown much. He's had flashes. He's had a couple flashes with the Browns. Okay games, right? And you go, ooh, maybe Elijah might be coming on. Then you pick him up and he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Not saying that I had that experience multiple times, but if Deshaun goes down, they've got Tyler Huntley, they've got Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We'll see.
Give me your best bet here. If you had to bet if Deshaun Watson would throw plus or minus 4,000 yards, what would you say? Minus 4,000 yards. If you had to say he'd throw 30 touchdowns plus or minus, what would you say?
Minus. I think you're safe at the 3,800, 28 touchdowns.
All right. There you go. John just laid it out for you. So
Should be the line.
at what point would you draft Deshaun Watson as your QB? Like
First of all, don't draft him as your QB1. He's not a QB1.
okay.
Stop drafting him like that.
So you'd want him as a backup?
You'd want him as a backup, and only if you got him cheap. If you went like you really stocked up on your other positions before you went and got a backup quarterback, like a lot of people do, just because they don't maybe get as many points for quarterbacks or whatever. I might take a flyer on him late. Just thinking.
What I'm getting at, John, is how many quarterbacks would you draft ahead of him? Where is he? 15th, 20th?
Oh shit. Yeah. I there's probably 15 quarterbacks I could draft before him. Probably more, maybe more.
Okay. So in other words, you're not going to draft him because he's going before that in drafts. Yeah.
I'm not drafting him.
I'm not drafting him either. So
yeah.
All right.
We'll get
John,
into some of our other teams.
John, we tackled the AFC North.
Hey-o.
Next week, we're going to tackle the NFC North.
Nice.
Also,
my second favorite division.
Your second favorite. So that'll be fun. We also got to start doing our rankings pretty soon, folks. So we're going to do our top 12 quarterbacks, our top 24 running backs, our top 24 wide receivers, top 12 tight ends. So a lot of good stuff coming your way over the next 8 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun as we tackle all the divisions and we start giving you our rankings. So also wanted to thank Johnny freaking Ballgame.
And I want to thank Senior Chucky B,
The Grim Reaper. He's the fantasy reaper, people.
Thank you, John. We appreciate you watching. If you like this content, make sure hit the like button, subscribe, comment, share your videos, all the good stuff. Help us tackle that YouTube algorithm. Get us out to more viewers, please. And thank you.
Boom. Thanks, everybody.
And we're going to see you next week. We thank you for watching. Aloha.
Crush your opponent with a smile. It's Fantasy Sports Island.